Rain needled the city as the mansion doors burst open and the senator's voice split the night. Who is responsible for this thing in your womb?
Oh, my
Marble
beautiful
drank the
Maya.
echo, and
Hello,
Anne,
little
15, trembling, clutched her stomach as if fingers alone
Even the
could
guilty
hold back a
deserve
tide.
truth.
Florence reached for her, prayer trembling on her lips, but Donald's arm swept her aside like a curtain. The kick came quick as a gavel. Air left Anne's lungs. Heat flashed, then a cold bloom of wet spreading under her dress. She slid on the polished floor, breath sawing, vision tunneling to the gilt ceiling.
Just one more push, Anne.
Somewhere,
You're almost there.
a clock ticked
Oh, my
like a
beautiful
countdown.
Maya.
Out,
Hello,
he
little
snarled.
one.
The name above the doorway, heavier than law.
Even the guilty
guards looked
deserve
away.
truth.
The gates yawned. Night took her. Outside, headlights smeared like angry stars. Anne folded around the pane, whispering to the life inside, "Hold fast." In the dark, drums she could not hear seemed to roll, the old law stirring. Insult a living soul, pay the
Just
price.
one more push, Anne.
Confess
You're
with
almost there.
deed, be
Oh, my
redeemed.
beautiful Maya.
She stumbled past
Hello, little
shuttered
one.
shops,
Hi.
past a stray dog that watched like a
Even the
witness.
guilty deserve
Blood
truth.
warmed her thighs. Breath fogged the air. God, please. She rasped. Then a small car slowed. A nurse's white uniform breaking the night like a lantern. African tales, storytelling magic. The unseen turning its face toward her. The clinic smelled of iodine and rain.
Just one more
Weak
push,
light
Anne. You're
trembled
almost
through
there.
cracked windows,
Oh, my
brushing over
beautiful
metal
Maya.
trays and a girl who
Hello,
had
little
crawled
one.
back from death's edge.
Hi.
Anne lay half awake, hand
Even the
bandaged
guilty
over her
deserve
abdomen,
truth.
the rhythmic pulse of a second heartbeat still alive within her. Nurse Cam moved around her bed with quiet command, a woman hardened by night shifts and miracles. "You're safe now," she whispered, smoothing the damp hair from Anne's forehead. "Your baby's heart is strong." Anne
Just one more
blinked,
push, Anne.
disbelief
You're almost
and
there.
exhaustion fusing in her
Beautiful
chest.
Maya.
Safe?
Hello, little
The
one.
word felt foreign.
Hi.
In her mind, she still heard her father's roar
Even the guilty
echoing down the
deserve
marble
truth.
halls, felt the marble's chill sear her skin. She turned her face away and wept silently, the tears tracing her neck like penance. Days passed like shallow breaths. Cam brought porridge and silence the good kind, the healing kind. Outside, the rain became a lullaby. Inside, Anne gathered fragments of herself. She swept floors, folded sheets, held newborns so others could sleep. The clinic became her exile and her shelter. When her belly began to rise again, she spoke little, but every night she whispered to the unseen, "If this child lives, I will never curse the life that bore me. I will fight." Months later, under the hum of a kerosene lamp, Anne gave birth. The baby's cry sliced through the quiet high, insistent, alive. Cam placed the small, wrinkled body into her arms. "What will you name her?" "Maya," Anne said, voice hoarse but steady. "It means hope." The nurse smiled faintly. "Then hope it shall be." That night, as thunder receded and dawn slit like silver over the city, Anne sat by the window holding her child close. Somewhere, far away, a man of power signed new laws, unaware that one soul he cast aside had survived to become his future's reckoning. The ancestors watched silent, impartial, marking the offense and its balance. African tales, storytelling magic, a wound turning to weapon, a vow born under rain. Years folded into themselves like dry leaves crushed under a slow march of time. The small clinic had long stopped smelling of blood and antiseptic. It now smelled of chalk dust, of old books and studied by candlelight. Her daughter, Maya 6, now slept curled under a thin blanket, her hair a halo in the flicker of flame. The city outside pulsed with ambition and greed, but inside their narrow room, the air held the quiet strength of survival. Anne's hands, once trembling from fear, now turned pages filled with statutes and case law. Every word was a rung on the ladder she built from shame to honor. She studied after washing linens, after days too long and pay too small. When hunger came, she fed Maya first. When doubt whispered, she thought of the night her father's rage became her exile, and she sharpened her will. The world would never call her powerless again. Nurse Kim, now older, sometimes watched from the doorway. "You're ready," she said softly one night. "Your dream law, it's not gone." Anne smiled faintly. It only slept. Years ripened her into a woman of calm steel. By the time she stood in her black gown before the bar, the courtroom lights gleaming on her polished shoes, the name Times and Donald Times sounded like its own verdict. But she carried no family to cheer, only the invisible chorus of spirits that had guarded her through darkness. Meanwhile, far across the city, the senator's empire began to crack. Papers whispered of stolen lands, fake charities, hidden accounts. His face appeared in headlines, not as statesman but suspect. Rivals laugh behind champagne flutes. The same marble floor that once bore his daughter's blood now echoed with arguments and lawyers' footsteps. He roared at them all, but his voice had lost its godlike weight. By this time, Maya could read. She traced the letters on old newspapers, asking, "Mommy, what's a senator?" Anne froze, then smiled thinly. "Someone who serves others, or should." At the law firm where she worked, Anne became known for her clarity, her unbreakable calm. Judges leaned in when she spoke. Clients trusted her word like scripture. No one there knew the secret scar beneath her sleeve, or the bloodline she carried like a hidden scarab. Then, one quiet afternoon, fate arrived in a file folder. Her senior partner's voice floated through the office air. "Anne, a new case. Sensitive, high profile. A senator accused of fraud. We need your best." Her fingers hesitated on the papers. The name leapt from the page like a ghost. Asterisk, asterisk, Senator Donald. Asterisk, asterisk. For a moment, everything stopped, the hum of printers, the click of heels, even her breath. It was him. The father, the sin, the beginning of all her pain. She closed the folder slowly. Outside, thunder rolled as if the world remembered. That night, after putting Maya to bed, Anne sat alone by the window where city lights shimmered like watchful eyes. The file lay open beside her, a single name gleaming at the top. She whispered, "Lord, if this is your doing, make me strong enough not to hate." The wind shifted through the curtains, cool and steady. Somewhere in the dark, the ancestors stirred. The law of balance had called her home. African folk tale, heartbeat, revenge, and grace sharing one blade. The hunter summoned to heal the wound he once opened. The courthouse was alive that morning, a hive of murmurs, cameras, and the metallic scent of rain on concrete. Anne stepped from the black car, robe pressed, files clutched like a shield. The marble steps glistened. Every echo of her heels felt like a summons from the past. Inside, light pooled against oak panels and quiet anticipation. Then the door opened behind her. Footsteps. Familiar. Heavy. Senator Donald entered, flanked by aides. His once regal stride slowed by years and scandal. Grey threaded his hair. Arrogance still clung to him like perfume, but something hollow lived behind his eyes. When their gazes met, the air thickened. He stopped mid-step. "Anne," he whispered, his voice frayed, disbelief cracking through his chest. "Good morning, Senator," she replied, her tone clean, professional eyes polished to glass. Then she turned away. The past had no seat in her courtroom. The hearing began. Allegations of embezzlement, land seizures, political fraud. Prosecutors came armed with witnesses and forged papers, eager to carve him open before the nation. Cameras blinked like unblinking spirits, watching human vanity unravel. Anne rose. "May it please the court," she began, her voice steady, restrained. "We contend that these charges are political fabrications, stitched to destroy a man's legacy." Donald's eyes trembled on her. He could hardly breathe. Every phrase she uttered was a blade of mercy he did not deserve. The opposing lawyer sneered. "Counsel, your client's fortune speaks for itself." Anne didn't flinch. "Fortune speaks loudly, yes, but truth has its own tongue." She turned a page. "Let's hear it." Hours folded into hours. Witnesses stumbled under her questions. One man confessed a promised post if Donald lost. The courtroom gasped. Cameras clicked like locusts. The senator's head sank into his hands. Anne continued calm, surgical. She wielded her mind the way her father once wielded power, decisively, without a pause. But unlike him, she blared empathy into every strike. The courtroom was not a stage for vengeance. It was an altar for justice. During the recess, Donald slipped into a corridor, trembling. Raymond, his aide, followed. She's my daughter," Donald rasped. "The one I threw out." Raymond stared, speechless. "I don't deserve this," the senator whispered. "She should have destroyed me." Raymond's hand fell on his shoulder. "Maybe this is grace, sir. Don't waste it." When the gavel struck again, Anne returned, eyes sharp, face composed. The world saw a lawyer. Only the spirits saw a reckoning. Her final argument was clean, measured, but the courtroom could feel the undercurrent, not words, but something older. Politics must never become the tool that crushes the innocent, she said softly. The evidence fails to stand on its own feet. Then she looked at him, directly. Her voice did not break. it deepened, is greater than even the guilty deserve truth. Donald met her gaze the same eyes that once looked up at him from the marble floor. For the first time in decades, he felt small, mortal, unarmored. The judge's voice came last. Is greater than this court finds insufficient proof. Case dismissed. Applause rippled, but Anne felt numb. Her body was still, her heart silent. She gathered her files, bowed to the court, and turned away. Outside, reporters swarmed. She gave one line only, is greater than justice has spoken. Then she walked into the grey daylight, where mercy and vengeance shared the same reign. At the steps, a shadow fell beside her. Anne! His voice was broken glass. Please, forgive me. The past surged the marble, the kick, the blood. She steadied her breath. I forgave you long ago, she said quietly. I had to, or I'd never have survived. Just then, a small voice pierced the noise. Mommy! Maya ran, bright and laughing, her little backpack swinging. Anne caught her, lifted her high. Donald froze. The air thinned. This was the life he had tried to end. The small arms, the laugh, everything he had, almost buried under pride. His knees bent without command. He bowed before his daughter and granddaughter both. May I? He whispered. Anne hesitated, then nodded. He gathered the child gently into his arms, trembling. Tears cut through the old senator's face like confession. The cameras caught none of it. It was not for them. It was for the ancestors, for the marble, for the blood long dried but never forgotten. African storytelling magic, a reckoning disguised as redemption. The hunter kneeling before the spirit he wounded. Justice served, not by law, but by grace. Night descended softly over the senator's mansion, not as an intruder but as a witness. The iron gates opened without protest this time. The guards saluted, uncertain what to call the woman stepping out of the car. The senator's lawyer, or his lost blood, returned. The driveway glistened with rain, the fountains whispering like gossiping spirits. Anne's steps were slow, deliberate. Her hand clutched Maya's, the little girl's shoes pattering against the stone like a heartbeat. Donald walked beside them, quiet, his face a storm of awe and guilt. The house loomed ahead, windows glowing gold, the same light that had once framed his fury. Inside, Florence waited at the foot of the grand staircase. For a moment, she did not breathe. Her daughter, alive. Her granddaughter, radiant. Then the years of silence shattered. Anne, she gasped, rushing forward, her cry cracking through the air like a hymn breaking open. They met halfway, mother and daughter, colliding into an embrace that years of fear could not prevent. Florence clung to her, sobbing, half apology, half prayer. Then she knelt to Maya's level, touching her cheek with trembling hands. My sweet child, she whispered, you're home. Donald stood back, his authority dissolving. For decades he had ruled with fear. Now he could only watch as love rewrote the house's commandment. Anne turned toward him, her eyes steady. Come closer, Dad, he obeyed. The three stood together for the first time in years. Florence reached for his hand. Anne did not flinch when he touched hers. The house sighed, as if it had been holding its breath since the night of blood. Dinner was quiet. The clink of cutlery, the occasional laugh from Maya, the warmth of things relearned. Anne spoke of her struggles studying by lantern light, the clinic, the people who helped her when no one else did. Donald listened, every word a knife of shame and pride both. He had missed all of it, the nights of fever, the first steps, the first victory in court. He wanted to speak, but found no words large enough to hold regret. Later, as servants cleared the table, Maya showed her drawings, bright houses, wide suns, a woman holding a child's hand. Donald took one, traced it with his finger. "May I keep this?" She nodded. "It's for you, Grandpa." Something broke cleanly inside him. For the first time, the word times Grandpa times didn't feel like a title of honor. It felt like forgiveness. When the others retired, Anne stood by the tall window of the sitting room. Outside, lightning flashed across the clouds, and the fountains caught its light like silver tears. Donald approached quietly, his voice rough. "I can't undo what I did, but if you allow me, I'll spend what years remain paying the debt." Anne turned. "You don't have to pay. Just live rightly. That will be enough." They stood side by side, not speaking. Silence filled with the ghosts of what had been lost. From the upstairs balcony, Maya's laughter drifted down a child who knew nothing of pride or punishment, only of belonging. Donald exhaled. "I called you disgrace," he murmured, "but you became my salvation." Anne's eyes softened. Perhaps that's how grace works. It humbles the proud by raising the broken. He looked at her, and the weight of titles, campaigns, and power fell away. There was only a father and his daughter under ancestral watch. When dawn came, it poured over the house like benediction. Anne led Maya through the front garden, dew bright under their feet. Donald followed at a distance, his figure bent but lighter. At the gate, Anne paused. The city beyond waited, wide and humming. "We'll visit again soon," she said. Donald nodded, voice thick. "The door will never close again." Anne smiled faintly. "Good, because forgiveness doesn't live behind locked doors." The car door shut softly. The engine turned. As they drove away, Donald remained on the steps, sunlight spilling over him. The house behind him, no longer a fortress, but a shrine of lessons learned in pain. In the rising light, the ancestors' law whispered its verdict. Asterisk, he who shed blood within his house has restored it with humility. The balance stands. Asterisk, and in that quiet morning, the tale of the senator and his daughter, once a story of cruelty, became an African tale of atonement. Not that wounds disappear, but that they can sing when touched by mercy, is greater than asterisk. Asterisk, moral. Asterisk, asterisk,